What if I told you that addiction, yes, the thing we fear, judge, and misunderstand, is not actually about the substance? That it's not about the bottle, the pill, the screen, or the thrill? What if addiction, at its core, is a spiritual problem, a philosophical crisis of the soul, and not just a behavioral malfunction or a chemical imbalance? That's not just my opinion. That's what Carl Jung believed. And in this video, we're going to explore the shocking, perhaps even life-saving, idea that addiction is not what you think. Because if we get this wrong, we don't just misunderstand addicts, we misunderstand ourselves. Let's start with a story Jung told. A man deeply addicted to alcohol came to him for help. Jung told him a truth that would become legendary in the world of recovery. You are in the grip of a spiritus contra spiritum. Alcohol is the Latin word for spirit. What you need is a spiritual experience to match the power of the alcohol. Think about that. Jung wasn't just saying that the man needed therapy or discipline. He was saying that the void inside him, the hunger, the craving, was spiritual. And alcohol was the counterfeit, the substitute, the false god that temporarily quieted the ache of existential emptiness. This is the part where we begin to go deeper. Ask yourself, what is it that addiction is trying to solve? Because no one wakes up and says, I want to be addicted. Addiction is a response, a symptom, a survival mechanism. It's a way of saying, I cannot sit with this pain, this boredom, this aloneness, this meaninglessness, so I will reach for something stronger than me. And that's the real question here. What is the thing stronger than us that we are all secretly craving? Jung would say, it's God, but not in the religious sense. In the existential, psychological sense, God, as in wholeness, union, integration, meaning. Let's zoom out. Why does addiction exist in every culture, across every time period, in every class, race, and gender? Because the human psyche is wired to seek transcendence. We are driven by a hunger for something beyond the material. We don't just want to survive, we want to feel alive. And when that need is unmet, when the soul is starved, we reach for what Jung called a low-grade substitute for the divine. That's what drugs are. That's what compulsive sex is. That's what gambling, binge-eating, and even endless scrolling can be. They are false sacraments, cheap rituals that mimic transcendence but leave us emptier than before.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
And here's the twist. The more advanced our society becomes, the more we lose access to real transcendence. We live in a world that has stripped away ritual, myth, silence, and soul. We are surrounded by noise, distraction, and performance. We are encouraged to consume, to grind, to optimize, but never to be still, never to feel, never to sit in the raw pain of our unmet longing. Medicate. Not just with substances, but with achievement, with validation, with status. And that too is addiction. Jung would say, we are all addicts in some form. The only question is, what is your drug of choice? Now let's go even deeper. Jung believed that the root of addiction was the disconnection from self, from the unconscious, from the archetypal forces within us that are never fully under our control. He taught that the psyche isn't just a bundle of thoughts and feelings. It's a living system full of symbols, instincts, and spiritual drives. And when we ignore those forces, when we suppress our shadow, deny our inner child, reject our deeper truths, those parts don't go away. They return in distorted form, as addiction, as compulsion, as obsession. Addiction is what happens when the soul tries to speak, and we refuse to listen. So here's the real question. What are you refusing to hear? When you feel that craving, that pull toward the thing you know isn't good for you, what is it covering up? What truth is it asking you to confront? Maybe it's grief. Maybe it's deep loneliness. Maybe it's the prow of being ordinary. Or maybe it's the simple fact that no one ever taught you how to live with unfiltered existence. And that's what addiction is. A refusal to live in the rawness of life without anesthesia. And Jung's answer wasn't to shame the addict. It was to invite them into wholeness, into integration, into meaning. Let's pause here and reflect. You might be thinking, okay, this sounds poetic, but how does it help? Here's how. When you stop seeing addiction as a moral failure or a disease and start seeing it as a spiritual cry for meaning, you stop fighting the symptom and start addressing the cause. You stop saying, how can I stop drinking? And start asking, what am I really thirsty for? And that's where transformation begins, not with willpower, but with truth, with the courage to ask the hardest question of all, what is missing from my life that makes this addiction feel necessary? Jung was profoundly ahead of his time. He didn't just write about the unconscious, he respected it. He knew that the shadow, the archetypes, the inner myths, they all demand to be honored, and when they aren't, they take over. That's why he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Addiction is fate we haven't confronted. It's the unconscious driving the car while we sit in the back seat, pretending we're in control. But the moment we turn inward, the moment we face the dragon, we begin to reclaim the steering wheel. This isn't just for people addicted to drugs. This is for all of us. Because every time we reach for our phone instead of our thoughts, every time we chase applause instead of purpose, every time we numb instead of feel, we are dancing with addiction. And Jung's message isn't to make us feel guilty. It's to invite us back to ourselves. Because the antidote to addiction isn't abstinence alone. It's integration. It's finding a life so meaningful, so truthful, so alive that we no longer need to escape it. That's what recovery really means. Not just staying clean, but becoming whole. So let me ask you, what part of you have you been running from? What part of your life feels unbearable without a buffer? Jung would tell us to go toward that part, to listen, to feel it fully, because only when we face the pain beneath the addiction can we begin to heal. And healing, in this sense, is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. It's about building a life where you no longer need to self-abandon just to survive the day. The alchemy of craving. Turning the inner addict into the inner guide, let's begin with a question that most people avoid. What if your addiction wasn't your enemy, but your misunderstood teacher? I know this sounds dangerous, even absurd, but hear me out. Carl Jung didn't see addiction as a monster to be slain. He saw it as a symbol, a coded message from the unconscious, pointing not only to what's broken, but also to what wants to be born. Addiction is the psyche's way of saying, there's something inside you that you haven't integrated yet. Something sacred, something dangerous, something powerful. And until you face it, it will keep wearing this mask, this craving, this compulsion, this cycle of temporary highs and empty aftermaths. Jung believed that every psychological symptom is also a potential source of transformation. This is the concept of alchemy, which he studied obsessively. Alchemy, in the old mystical sense, was never just about turning lead into gold. It was about turning suffering into meaning, fragmentation into wholeness, despair into wisdom. And if we apply that to addiction, it means that the craving itself contains the energy needed for healing. It just has to be transmuted. So the question becomes, how do we alchemize addiction? Not suppress it, not punish it, but transform it. How do we turn the lead of craving into the gold of purpose? It starts with this radical shift. Stop trying to kill the addict inside you. Start trying to understand them. Ask yourself, what does this addicted part of me actually want? If it could speak, what would it say? You'll find, more often than not, that it's not asking for escape. It's asking for connection. It's asking to be seen. The inner addict is usually the wounded child, the neglected self, the exiled emotion. And when we demonize it, we actually split ourselves even further. Healing doesn't come through war, it comes through dialogue. Jung called this process active imagination, a way of conversing with the unconscious parts of ourselves to bring them into harmony with the whole. Think of it this way: addiction is raw energy, misdirected. It's a sacred fire burning out of control. But fire, once understood, can cook food, light a home, forge steel. Craving is not weakness, it's unanchored power. And most people never learn to anchor it because they're too busy shaming it. But if you could sit with your craving without judgment and follow it down to its roots, you'd likely find a forgotten piece of your soul waiting there. Maybe it's your creativity. Maybe it's your grief. Maybe it's your desire to break free from a life that has become too small for who you truly are. Jung would say, go there. That's where the transformation begins. So what does this look like in real life? It looks like radical honesty. It looks like building a life that doesn't require constant sedation. It looks like making space for your inner world, your dreams, your fears, your longings, instead of constantly drowning them out with stimulation. It looks like asking, what am I truly hungry for? And then having the courage to build your life around that answer. Because if the hunger is for meaning and you keep feeding it distraction, the addiction will never stop. But if you feed it truth, if you live in alignment with your deeper self, the craving begins to change. The addict becomes the guide. The wound becomes the portal. The pain becomes the path. Beyond sobriety, building a life you no longer need to escape from, here's a truth that feels almost too honest to say. Most recovery programs aim for sobriety, but sobriety isn't the final destination. It's the beginning. The real question isn't, how do I stop using? It's what kind of life do I need to build so that I no longer want to? Because if you remove the drug, the behavior, the compulsion, but leave the emptiness, the disconnection, the soul starvation untouched, then the addiction will simply morph into something else. It will find another mask. It always does. This is why Jung taught that recovery without transformation is just relocation. You move the symptoms around without ever healing the cause. And the cause is always a fractured relationship with life, with self, with meaning. So what does it mean to build a life you no longer need to escape from? It means you stop designing your days around survival and start designing them around integration. You stop chasing numbness and start committing to presence. It means cultivating practices that anchor you in the now, rituals, not routines. Silence, not just stillness. Depth, not just distraction. You start asking questions like, what feeds my soul? What awakens my curiosity? What makes me feel connected to something larger than myself? And when you find those answers, even in small moments, you build around them. You protect them like sacred fire, because those moments are your anti-addiction. Not abstinence, but aliveness. Jung believed that every human being longs for wholeness. But wholeness isn't perfection. It's not about being clean, pure, or unflawed. It's about becoming undivided. Addiction is the expression of division, a war within the self. One part of you wants to evolve, to feel, to grow. Another part wants to hide, to numb, to disappear. And the longer you live split between them, the louder the addiction becomes. Recovery, then, is the act of reuniting those parts, not by force, but by compassion. You say to your inner chaos, I see you, I'm listening, and I will not abandon you. That's the real beginning of healing, not when you stop using, but when you stop running. But here's the part we don't talk about enough. Healing costs something. It costs your illusions. It costs your old survival patterns. It costs the comfort of blaming something outside yourself. Because once you realize the addiction was never just about the substance, you have to confront what it was protecting you from. And that work is raw. It's holy. It's terrifying. But it's also the most beautiful thing you'll ever do. Because you're not just quitting something, you're becoming someone. Someone who no longer needs to disappear to feel okay. Someone who can sit in their skin and feel home. So let me leave you with this. If addiction is the soul's cry for wholeness, then recovery is the journey back to the center of yourself. Not the self you perform, not the self that pleases others, but the self that has been quietly waiting underneath all the noise. Carl Jung didn't just want us to be sober, he wanted us to be whole. And that means building a life of meaning, honesty, and depth. A life where you no longer need to escape because you finally remembered who you are. And when you live from that place, not perfectly, but truthfully, addiction loses its grip. Because you're no longer looking to be saved. You're finally ready to become.